We live in the United States of America, governed by one central federal government. But does that mean states have turned over all their authority to that central government? Have we tested that relationship in the distant or recent past? Has that relationship changed over time? I'm Tom Army, and this is another edition of United States History Online. In 1798, the young United States of America appeared highly likely to go to war with France. French political dissidents were stirring up unrest throughout Europe, and the John Adams administration feared these dissidents would spread their rancor into the United States. Many citizens here in America did not completely trust their still new national government. The Whiskey Rebellion in 1794 demonstrated that mistrust by challenging the authority of Congress and President Washington. In response in 1798 to this French threat, Congress passed and Adams signed into law 4 internal security acts restricting aliens and curtailing the excesses of an unrestrained press. These laws we refer to as the Alien and Sedition Acts. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison promoted the idea of limiting the power of our national government. And they saw 2 major problems with the Alien and Sedition Acts. First, the Sedition Act appeared unconstitutional because it violated free speech. Second, they believed the United States had no defined mechanism to challenge the validity of new laws. Jefferson was adamant that the Supreme Court did not have the power to declare an act of Congress unconstitutional. The Constitution did not expressly confer this power on the courts. Jefferson's Kentucky resolutions and Madison's Virginia resolutions, both written in 1798, argued for the creation of a solution to these problems. Both essays declared that the national government established a compact with the states when the states ratified the Constitution. Therefore, the states retained the authority to determine the validity of federal legislation and to declare the Alien and Sedition Acts unconstitutional. Madison argued that states had the right to interpose to prevent harm caused by unconstitutional laws. Now, all the states rejected the Jefferson-Madison theory. Vermont went as far as to declare that the people, not the states, had determined that the federal government should be superior to the states. Now, Jefferson and Madison did not have to wait long for the federal government to respond to their concerns. In 1802, the Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Marshall, spoke for the majority when he ruled in Marbury versus Madison that the court did have the authority to declare acts of Congress unconstitutional. Then, in both Martin versus Hunter's Lessee, 1816, and McCulloch versus Maryland, 1819, the Marshall Court argued the Constitution proceeded directly from the people and was not created by the states. The Constitution was binding on the states and could not be negated by the states. These decisions, however, did not end the constitutional debate over states' rights. In 1828, John C. Calhoun of South Carolina used the compact theory to assert the power of the state to declare the federal tariff of 1828 null and void. In his South Carolina exposition and protest, he wrote, quote, "An unchecked majority is despotism," unquote. Only the states could control the unbridled power of the federal government. Calhoun's remarks exacerbated the so-called nullification crisis, which burned on for 4 years until the compromise tariff of 1833 temporarily settled the matter. The idea that states should serve as final arbiters over whether or not the federal government overstepped its authority as set forth in the Compact reappeared in 1860 to justify the legality of secession by the Southern states. Slavery precipitated the Civil War, and the Southern states that seceded from the Union firmly believed they had the legal right to do so. The authors of the Declaration of Causes which induced the secession of South Carolina wrote, "We maintain that in every compact between two or more parties, the obligation is mutual, that the failure of one of the contracting parties to perform a material part of the agreement entirely releases the obligation of the other." President Abraham Lincoln responded to the secession crisis in his first inaugural address in March of 1861. He argued that the Union was perpetual, yet its current configuration was not. Sovereignty resided in the people, not the states. The people ratified the Constitution, not Congress or state legislatures. Following this line of reasoning, Lincoln said that secession was legal only if Congress, representing all the people, approved it. He asked, can't it being the Union, as a contract, be peacefully unmade by less than all the parties who made it? One party may violate it, but does it not require all to lawfully rescind it? Lincoln challenged the notion that each party to a compact could be the sole judge of whether the compact was being followed. Under these circumstances, no contract would endure. To Lincoln, and some Southerners, and most Northerners, the central idea of secession was the essence of anarchy. Legal scholars such as Daniel Webster and Supreme Court Justice Joseph Story had also challenged the compact theory. In Story's Commentaries on the Constitution of the United States in 1833, he wrote, quote, "There is nowhere found upon the face of the Constitution any clause intimating it to be a compact, or in any wise providing for its interpretation as such. The people do ordain and establish, not contract and stipulate with each other." End quote. After the Civil War, the Supreme Court took up the question of whether states could unilaterally secede from the United States. Chief Justice Solomon Chase wrote the court's opinion in Texas versus White in 1869. I'll leave you to discover what the court ruled and to decide what authority states have preserved. Have you seen Anything in the news recently to suggest this question has still not come to a resolution everyone has accepted?